Don't you think it's a little arrogant to say that Jesus is the only way to God? Come on. Seriously, that means that every other religion is wrong, and this is what people think. They think it's a little bit entitled, it's a little bit arrogant, it's a little bit, conceited to say and to claim that Jesus is truly the only path to our God. Just like Jesus himself said about himself, that I am the truth, the way, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus said things like, he who has seen me has seen the Father. All these claims that Jesus would make, that there's an exclusivity about Christianity, that we're not competing, we're not like every other religion, that we stand alone, that we are the truth with the capital T. A lot of people have a problem with that. So in today's video, guys, I really wanted to address this question because I think it's something that we as Christians need to know how to talk about this with unbelievers as we're trying to share the gospel with, people who don't believe in Jesus, when they have valid questions, when they say, what makes Christianity unique? Why isn't Christianity not like one of many ways toward God? These are valid questions. And if you're somebody who is passionate about the gospel and sharing the gospel with people, there is something that you need to know. But if you came across this video, you're not a believer, I welcome that question with open arms. And I just hope that you stay open-minded and hear my answer. And in this video, in fact, I'm not just going to give you my answer, but I'm going to give you an answer of an Oxford mathematician who is actually a Christian. And it was part of this very interesting, and I would highly recommend for you to go and watch the whole debate that Richard Dawkins, who is a world-renowned atheist, probably the biggest atheist that there is on the face of the planet, where he was debating against John Lennox, who is a scientist, who's a mathematician, but he is a believer in Jesus. So this debate, I think it took about like almost 2 hours, but it's an amazing debate, and I will link it in my description box down below so you can click on it and watch the whole debate. I would highly recommend. But in today's video, I'm going to just react to the one little and comment on the little part of this video towards the end when they're asking, when there's a Q&A and John Lennox is given a question saying, what makes Christianity unique? Why do Christians have this claim, that their way is the only way toward God, Does not sound a little arrogant. Why does, and he really delves into answering this question. I think he answered it brilliantly, powerfully, and so I just wanted to share with you and just really hopefully that this can challenge your mind if you're, an unbeliever, but also if you are a believer, that hopefully that can help you really answer people's questions so that you are able to really give an account for the hope that you profess in Jesus. So let's jump in.
Yes, what distinguishes Christianity? Why do you feel that the Christian faith is in some way more viable than the other religions?
I see. Well, I think for me the question is, very aware of Richard sitting here to my right, is whether it's true or not. And Christ claimed to be the way, the truth, and the life, and either that's absurd nonsense or else it's true. Now, I'm convinced it is true. Why is it true? Well, if we take the three great monotheistic religions and their attitude to Christ, we'll find that one of them believes that he died and didn't rise. The other believes that he didn't die, and Christianity believes that he both died and rose again. Now, that's something that I feel that we can access by history. The second point is this, and it's probably the most important point. It's that it seems to me in a way that Christianity is not competing with other religions. Let me try and explain that. Because as I understand the New Testament, what Christ offers me is something that no other religion offers me. Many religions offer me a path, a moral path to follow, which may be excellent. But what Christianity offers me is a radical diagnosis, which some people react against. The fact that I find myself disjointed, I don't even keep my own standards, and so on.
I just love what he said, that Christianity provides a diagnosis. And this is so true of Christianity, because every other religion, like take New Age, take all these things, what Christianity does is really calls out you on your sin and the fact that how big it is and how grievous it is, and to the point that none of us, no matter how good we try to be, we can never get rid of it, and we never can atone for the sin. And the only way that sin can be dealt with is through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. Is God coming, incarnating, and saving us, and us receiving a free gift of salvation. That is absolutely powerful.
And I find also that the relationship with God has been broken. And there is need for repair, there's need for forgiveness. Now, in Christ, in his death and resurrection, I find that there's an adequate basis for forgiveness so that I can be certain of my relationship with God and know it. Now, I don't find that anywhere else. I find wonderful morality and all the rest of it. And I think it's very important that we respect people of other faiths. But if you ask me what makes the difference, that's the central one. There are many others.
Okay.
Okay, guys, I just love how brilliantly he answered that question, because that's exactly what makes Christianity unique. You know, I think I've said this in my previous videos because I talk about this quite so much, is that, if every religion says that you've got to, God is at the top of the mountain, right? And every religion, every other worldview says, you got to do this and this so you can reach toward God, all your efforts, there's moralism, there's all these, rituals, whatever it is, as a path towards enlightenment. What Christianity says is the polar opposite of that. It's just said that God up on his mountain came down, incarnated in the flesh, in the person of Jesus Christ, and he dwelt among us, he lived among us, and he died for us. And he really gave us, like he said, he gave us a radical diagnosis of our sin, that we were born in sin. There was nothing that we could do to come closer to him. We could not be, none of our works, all of our works are as filthy rags before God. Our righteousness is only by accepting his gift, his atonement, his sacrifice, for our sins on the cross. When we receive that free gift of salvation and we live in reality of that, when our life flows from deep understanding of the new identity we have in Jesus, as being adopted into his family, as made new, as being freed from slavery of sin. When we understand that, when we by faith accept that gift, that's when we are reconciled to God, to our Creator. And that is something that is only unique to Christianity. People have a hard time believing, Christianity is a truth with a capital T, and there's no, he says Christianity doesn't compete because it's truth. Truth doesn't compete with falsehood, with lies, with pseudo-truths, okay? Truth is truth. Think about this. In the world, in our physical world, like we have absolutes. For instance, let's say, and I hate to reduce, our faith in God to, an example like, blood pressure, but let's talk about it. Let's say, I say the American Heart Association released a standard saying that the normal blood pressure for a human being is 120/80. That is the normal blood pressure. That is the standard. That is the truth with a capital T. So, it doesn't matter from which ethnicity you are, from which part of the world you are, this is the standard for blood pressure for a human being. Any number that is above that number is not a normal blood pressure for a human being, and needs to be treated, needs to be addressed, right? Or, needs to be either treated, or you need to start doing some lifestyle modifications, whatever the case might be. Same thing, for instance, when we say, there's a physical absolute and standard, same thing applies to the spiritual world. When we say Jesus is a truth with capital T, is because God himself made that the standard, that Jesus is the only way to him. He is the only access to him, and no man will come to him apart from Jesus Christ. No matter works, no matter rituals, no matter what, is not going to save you. And people are like, have a discomfort with that. But like, here's the thing, you come to your doctor and you can say, well, I don't believe that 120/80 is the normal blood pressure. I'm perfectly fine with a blood pressure of 200/100, right? Like I'm perfectly fine. I don't think that's a problem. Well, you can deny that all day long, but it doesn't erase the fact that it's a problem, because there is an absolute standard. And we've studied and we've seen that anything outside of that parameter is not healthy, or everything above that parameter is not healthy, right? That is truly above. So it's like, and so we trust by faith, we believe that the American Heart Association is not lying to us, that it's truthful to us. So we submit ourselves to those numbers. Same thing about spirituality and spirit truth, and the truth claim that Christianity makes for Jesus being the standard and the only way is that here's the spiritual standard. You can deny it all day long. You can choose these different many paths, and and the enemy, what do you think? There's always going to be an attack on truth, because evil will always want to undermine God's truth. And this is the reason why there's so many pseudo religions, pseudo paths, that are not true paths toward freedom and true knowledge of God. So That is the claim that we make. And hopefully this video was helpful in just sort of enlightening your understanding. And if you have challenges, with your faith, and I could talk about this even more and saying, that Christianity is not asking you to believe in nothing. There is evidence, there's historical evidence for the person of Jesus Christ, of his death and resurrection. There's eyewitnesses account in the Gospels of people who lived in those times, who saw the resurrected Christ, who gave their lives for Jesus. You have a whole movement in the first century, people who gave their lives for the gospel. None of this would happen if the resurrection was not true, And like I always says, people choose to believe and pick and choose what they think is historically reliable and what is not. But if you do your in-depth research, historical research into the person of Jesus, you'll be surprised what you'll find. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing, commenting, liking, and turning your notification bell so that you're always stay updated when I release new videos. And I'll see you guys in the next video.